Hello, my dear students and viewers. Welcome to my channel, Scorpio class. Today, we are going to learn a chapter from Women's Book of Class 9 Cbse Board. The name of the chapter is The Happy Prince, and we are going to see the summary of the chapter. So, let's get started. But before starting the chapter, if you are new to my channel and watching my video for the first time, to subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon so that you get the notification of all the upcoming videos. So let's start with the summary in short of this chapter. Okay, so before starting the chapter, we are going to see about the author. The author of this lesson, The Happy Prince, is Oscar Wilde. He is a well-known and an eminent author. He was born in 16 October 1854 and he died on 30th November 1900. He was an Anglo-Irish playwright, novelist, poet, and a critic. He is regarded as one of the greatest writers of the Victorian period. Okay, so this is our author, Oscar Wilde. So we had a brief information about him. And now let's proceed on. Let's see about the chapter. A small introduction. What is this chapter about? So the chapter Happy Prince, the story is about a prince. When the prince was alive, he was very happy. After his death, a big statue of his was erected on a pedestal. From there, the statue of Prince could see the entire city, and at that time, he saw the miseries of the people. He saw the poor people, the homeless, their hunger and starvation. The prince was sad to see all these miseries, sadness of the people. So, in this chapter, we will study story of this prince. So, my dear learners, I think you would have understood what is the theme of this chapter. It's all basically about a prince who was given the name as Happy Prince because he led a very happy and luxurious life. And after the death of the prince, a big statue of the prince was erected and it was made to stand on a pedestal, on a tall column and in the midst of the city from where he could see the entire city where he ruled before. And he was not aware of any sorrows, any suffering of the people or the miseries of the people as he was within the luxuries of the palace. But now he could see the poor people suffering. They were homeless, they were hunger, they were starving. So all this brought into the sadness of the prince. He became sad. And what is the entire story? What did he do after being sad? So let's read the story and understand it. So here we go with the summary. Once in a town there lived a prince. He was called the Happy Prince because he had been happy all his life. After his death, his statue was erected on a tall pedestal in the middle of the town. The statue was covered with gold and had two precious sapphire stones embedded in the eyes. A ruby stone had been fitted into the handle of his sword. From there, he could see all around the place and realized that the people lived in a lot of poverty and misery. This sight saddened the prince, and being helpless, he would weep to see the plight of his people. I hope you would have understood something about the prince. So yes, here we see that there was once a town where a happy prince lived, just as we saw now. And he was called the Happy Prince because he had been happy all his life. As he was a prince, he had all the luxuries within the palace, and he had never known what the sufferings and the sorrows are. After his death, when the statue was erected on a tall pedestal, on a tall column, it's basically a base or a pillar on which a tall statue has been installed. Okay, so it was done in the middle of the town, and the statue was covered with all the ornaments and the jewels like gold and had precious stones like sapphires, which were used to embed his eyes, and a ruby stone which was fitted on the sword's handle or a sword hilt, you could say. Okay, from there, the prince could see all around the palace, the entire city, and here for the first time he started realizing that the people here lived in lot of poverty and misery. They had sorrow, they had sufferings, they were hunger, and after seeing all these things, he felt saddened. And he was helpless because he was a statue. He could not move and help them. So he used to weep after seeing the plight of the people. Okay, let's move ahead and look into the story. Okay, one day a swallow bird was flying through the city on its way to Egypt to meet its friends. On the way, it took shelter for the night at the feet of the statue of the happy prince. The bird realized that the statue was weeping and, upon inquiry, realized the plight of the prince. The helpless prince requested the bird to help it by becoming its messenger. After initial refusal, the bird agreed and took the ruby stone out of the sword hilt and delivered it to a poor seamstress. The next morning, as he went to bid goodbye, the statue convinced him to stay back for one more day. That day, the bird was asked to remove the sapphire stone from one of the statue's eyes and deliver it to a young playwright. Also, on the third day, the bird had to pull out the second sapphire stone from a poor match girl. Okay, so now when the prince was helpless, it was weeping at the plight and the condition of the people of a city. It happened that a swallow bird, which was flying through the city on its way to Egypt to meet its friend, took shelter for the night at the feet of the statue of the happy prince. Now the bird realized that the statue was weeping because because the tears of the prince fell on swallow bird. So the swallow bird started inquiring, and upon inquiry, it realized the plight of the prince, that how the prince was so sad after looking at the condition, the saddened condition of the people of its city. And it was not able to do anything. But when the prince was alive, he was not aware of this condition. So he was regretting as well as feeling saddened and pity on the people. So this was the condition of the statue. So the helpless prince here, it requested the bird to help by becoming its messenger. Now this messenger would help in what way? Let us see. So after the initial refuse, so first at the start initially the bird refused, but later on it agreed and it started helping the prince. So, why did it refuse? Because the prince asked to take the ruby stone out of the sword hilt and give it to a poor seamstress. So, first the bird denied, but later on, after being convinced, it started helping the prince. So it plucked the ruby from the sword hilt. Sword hilt is again the handle of the sword. Okay, so it took out the ruby and it delivered to a poor seamstress. Who is a seamstress? It's a woman who lives their life or does the earning by weaving the clothes or embroidering the clothes, you could say. So there was a poor seamstress who was working day and night, was tired, was poor, and her son was also suffering from fever, and she had nothing to give it to him, and she was very helpless. So this pity condition was seen by Happy Prince, and he wanted to help this poor seamstress. So it took the swallow's help as a messenger and it helped the poor seamstress. Then the next morning, the swallow bird came to fare a goodbye, but the statue convinced it again to stay for one more day, and now it had to help a young playwright. A playwright is a writer who writes the story or a play, you could say, for a theoretical dramas. So this young playwright was poor and had turned cold. He was not having any energy to complete the play and the drama. So the Happy Prince wanted to help him as well. So it asked and requested Swallowbird to remove one of the sapphire stone from the statue's eyes and deliver it to the young playwright. After that, on the third day, the bird again pulled out the second sapphire stone and had the poor match girl. Now, again, it was a request from the happy prince, and this poor match girl, she was just crying bitterly as she had mistakenly fallen all her matches into the gutter. Actually, it was for her to sell it and get some money at home, but it was accidentally fallen into the gutter, and she was worried about getting beaten up by the father once she reaches home without any money. And the girl's situation was too bad. She had no stockings, no shoes, and slippers on her legs. So, so again, here the prince wanted to help her, and by giving the second sapphire from his eye, through the help of Swallowbird, the poor match girl was helped. Now, by this time, the weather had become cold and the bird had developed an attachment with the statue. The bird did not want to leave the statue, which had now become blind. The happy prince asked the bird to go around the city and inform him of the condition of the people living there. The bird told him that the rich were making merry while the poor lived in misery. As the happy prince did not have any more precious stones, he ordered the bird to remove the gold foils from his body and distribute them among the living who needed money for survival. Gradually, the statue of the prince lost its covering of gold and became dull and grey. On the other hand, the poor became joyous as they got bread to eat. So now, further in the story, we get to know that by this time, after helping consequently for 3 days, the weather had become too cold and the bird could not withstand that cold weather. But it had developed an attachment with the statue and it was not willing to leave the statue and move away from there. And the statue as well had become blind because both of the sapphires, which were his eyes, were given away to the poor to help them. So Happy Prince asked the bird to go around the city and give more information about the condition of the people living there. So the bird used to go around, take all the information of the city, and tell the prince that rich were making merry in their beautiful houses, while the poor they still lived in misery. As Happy Prince wanted to help the poor people of a city and he had none of the precious stones left in the statue, it ordered the swallow bird to remove the gold foils from its body and distribute them among the living who needed money for survival. So as instructed and ordered, swallow bird followed it, and gradually the statue had lost its covering of gold and it became dull and gray. Okay, of course, if all the ornaments and the jewels of the statue is being removed, the statue will become dull and gray. On the other hand, the poor became joyous as they got bread to eat by selling and using the jewels, precious stones. Now, the swallow bird was now unable to withstand the cold weather and realized that death was approaching. It informed the statue that it had to leave, and the statue, who loved the bird, asked it to kiss him. As the bird died and fell at the statue's feet, a strange sound came out of the statue, the sound of the breaking of its heart. Although the statue's heart was made of lead, it broke as it was overwhelmed with affection towards the bird. When the statue was melted in the furnace, the heart did not melt and was thrown in the garbage. It landed near the swallow's body. God's angels took both the dead swallow and the broken heart to him as they were the most precious things on land. Okay, so here we see the story that at the end, the swallow bird was now unable to withstand the cold weather, and it realized that its death is approaching and it's very near. So it informed the statue that it is about to leave now, and the statue understood it, and they had a great bond and attachment and loved each other for their helping nature and kindness. So the prince asked the bird to just give a last kiss and have a good farewell. As the bird died, it fell at the statue's feet, and a strange sound was heard. It came out of the statue, and that sound was of the breaking of its heart. Though the statue was made out of metals, it had its heart made of lead metal, and it was broken because of the overwhelmed affection that it had towards the bird. Now, when the statue was melted in the furnace at the last, because it was of no use now, as it had lost all its beauty and the ornaments, it was made to melt in the furnace. And the entire statue was burnt except the heart, which did not melt. So it was thrown out in the garbage by the people of the city. And that lead heart landed near the swallow's body. Later on, when the god asked angels to get two precious things from land, it was the dead swallow and the broken heart of Happy Prince, which was taken as the most precious things from the land and given to the god. It was considered as most precious things on land because each of them sacrificed their life for each other by helping each other. Okay, so this is how the story goes, and here we come to the end of the story. I hope you have understood the lesson and the summary of the chapter. And if you like the video, do hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more such videos. We'll be back soon with more such videos and with the question answers of this chapter. Till then, stay safe and take care. Thank you.